Hello guys, welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we'll be talking about formulating your own poultry feeds. If this is your first time on the channel, this particular video right over here is actually a continuation of a video which I last dropped some days back about mixing your poultry feeds. Right from the ingredients, the alternative used in mixing the poultry feeds, the percentage of ingredients needed in mixing a certain kilogram of feeds. So if you haven't watched the first part of the video, then first pause this video and go and watch the first part of the video. It will be very easy for you to understand the second part very easy and quickly. Otherwise, it will be very hard for you to understand this part over here. So guys, before planning to mix your poultry feeds, there are certain things that you should put in mind before mixing the poultry feeds. So let's jump into them. So one thing that should come into your mind is that what kind of the birds am I going to mix the feeds for? Is it broilers, layers, local chicken, the kienyeji? Because all these kinds of chicken are given different feeds, so you must know what kind of birds you want to feed. And on top of that, you should also know that what is the purpose of these birds. Like for instance, let me say that you are keeping broilers. Do you want to sell them after a short period of time, or you want to keep them as breeders? So this one also matters a lot. Feeds that are given to birds, broiler birds, which are kept for meat. Like for instance, when you're keeping your birds for a maximum of 2 months and then you sell them, the feeds that you give to them are different from the feeds that are given to broiler birds, which are kept for breeding. For some of you who may not know, breeding, these are birds that are specifically kept to lay eggs. These day-old chicks, the young ones, come from these broiler breeders. So the feeds that you give to them are also different. Let's say that you're keeping your birds as broiler breeders and then you bring a formulation of feeds that are for birds that are to be sold after a very short period of time. Then your broiler breeders will grow very fat. Sometimes they may even not lay, and at some point they will die a lot because of the fats that is very excess in their body. So all these kinds of feeds are different and you should know them very well. But what we are going to talk on right in this video is not going to be about the formulation of feeds for the broiler breeders. It's for the broilers which are kept specifically for meat within a shortest period of time. So guys, don't misquote me, because when you do, then you will be risking your broiler breeder at a high risk. Like me over here, as you all know, I am keeping local chicken with the intention of multiplying more chicken on my farm. So these birds over here are like my breeder birds. I cannot give them feeds that can make them grow very fast, but rather I give them feeds just to sustain them and make them able to lay more eggs for me. On the other hand, a person who is keeping broilers with the aim to attain a certain weight within the shortest period of time cannot give his birds the feeds that I am feeding my birds right now, because they will grow very slowly and they will not attain their body weight within the shortest period of time. Much as some ingredients given to them are the same, but the quantity of some other ingredients are sometimes low or sometimes higher, depending on the kind of the birds that you're keeping. The second thing that you should consider before mixing your poultry feeds is the age of the birds. The age or the size of the birds, as some of you may understand. This is because most of these birds, more especially the layers and then the broilers, are given different type of feeds at every different stage of their growth. Like for instance, layer birds between week 1 and then week 18 are given feeds that can make them grow very fast, and the percentage of the crude protein is between 20 to 22%. But when it comes to the laying birds, you will find that the percentage of the crude protein is 18 to 19. So you can see the difference in the proteins that is given to these birds. This is where most farmers get it wrong, or most farmers interpret it very wrong. Let's say that you are keeping layer birds, and then you may find a formula of mixing your poultry feeds for the layer birds, not differentiating whether these are for this kind of stage of the birds, or these are for birds at this age up to this age. you will only get the formula without understanding the age of the birds that you should give these feeds to. And at some point, I've seen some farmers getting food formulas for mixing their feeds for birds which are laying birds, for birds which are day-old birds. You can get a formula of mixing your poultry feeds for layer birds at week 18, yet you are having day-old chicks. That alone can also make your birds to grow very slow, because the nutrients in the feeds which are given to birds at week 18 is different from the nutrients which are given to birds at day 1. So unknowingly, you may jump and then give your birds feeds which are not of their right age. So fellow farmers, you must be very keen when it comes to mixing your poultry feeds. When you get a wrong formula, your birds will grow very slow, and it will also affect the growth and then performance of your poultry birds. Before we move further, if this is your first time scrolling on this channel, my name is Jacob, a passionate farmer about poultry keeping. On this channel, we talk about poultry farming in general. We talk about the layers, the broilers, the local chicken, the kienyeji, ducks, geese, turkey, in fact, any kind of poultry, you will find it on this channel. So guys, if you are one of the people that have been looking for channels that can teach you on how you can run a poultry farm successfully, then you're very lucky, because you're in the right area. But before, I kindly beg you to subscribe to the channel so that you can be one of the members in this awesome YouTube channel. And if you find the content that I'm giving to you right now is very important, or the content in this video being very beneficial to you, do me a favor, like the video. These videos are like educational videos. If you have a relative or a friend who may like also this poultry thing, then hit that share button, share this video to them. That will help them so much in running their poultry farms as well. If you have any question connected to poultry farming, don't hesitate. Just drop the question in the comment section below. I am willing to answer at any time. And more importantly, hit that notification bell. That way you'll never miss out in case I drop any kind of video on this channel. Number 3 is that before mixing your poultry feeds, make sure that all the ingredients that you have gathered to mix your poultry feeds meet all the required nutrients needed in mixing the poultry feeds. On this point, I am not going to talk anything much, because this point right over here, we have talked on it largely on the first section of the video. That's why I have been telling you that if you have not yet watched the first part of the video, you must first go and watch it. That way it will help you so much in this second part of the video. Number 4 is the quality of the raw materials used in mixing the poultry feeds. This is one common mistake with most poultry farmers that I've seen. This normally comes when the prices of the poultry feeds or the poultry ingredients like the maize, the soya, or the fish meal rise up. Some farmers, after finding out that the prices of the ingredients have increased, let me say for instance the maize, they try to get the maize which are spoiled maize or maize which are of poor quality, not knowing that these poultry birds, especially the chicken, are very sensitive when it comes to feeds. What you should know is that these contaminated or these spoiled feeds contain what we call the mycotoxins, which is present in most of the raw materials which are used in mixing the poultry feeds. And these mycotoxins are not good for a bird's health, and sometimes they may kill your birds. I know poultry feeds is one of the most expensive thing when it comes to poultry keeping, but guys, let's try to be very keen when it comes to the poultry feeds. If you may find that you may run out of money when you have now started your poultry farm, I suggest you start with a small number of birds which you can maintain very, very well in terms of feeding them, giving them medication, other than getting a huge number of birds but not even able to take care of them properly. Not only that, you will be with the intention of reducing the cost of the feeds, not knowing the side effect that it will bring to your birds. You may lose your birds due to the poor feeds that you give to them. And then second, if you're doing layer birds, then the rate at which your birds lay will really drop. If broilers, then you are likely to keep your birds for a longer period of time than supposed to. So you can now see how deep you have subjected your farm into. Let me give you a scenario which happened with the farmer who was doing layers. His birds were laying at 80% production. This farmer was using commercial feeds. He was buying ready-made feeds from the market. After, he came up with an idea of mixing his own poultry feeds. But little did he know much on mixing the poultry feeds. So he started. After some days, the percentage at which his birds were laying dropped to 50%. So guys, much as he was spending less on the feeds, the rate at which his birds were laying really dropped down. This is because the ingredients that he was using to mix his poultry feeds were poor quality ingredients, and then second, he didn't have any much knowledge in mixing these poultry feeds. So guys, if we are to see it in a business way, then there is no point in this man mixing his own poultry feeds. At some point, you may be thinking that you will be saving your money with mixing your poultry feeds, and yet you will be working very hard to put yourself in a big loss. So fellow farmers, let's try to use good and then quality ingredients when we want to mix our poultry feeds. Avoid using spoiled maize, and when you want to use soya as the major source of protein to your birds, make sure that you first roast the soya before giving it to your birds. I have also dropped a video on why you should roast your soya bean before giving it to your birds. You can also go and watch that video. That will help you so much when it comes to mixing your own chicken poultry feeds. Number 5 is that when mixing your poultry feeds, you should mix them in 2 mixtures. First, you should mix the macronutrients separate, and then the micronutrients. First mix them before adding them to the macronutrients. This is because it really helps to mix feeds very uniformly. And when mixing your poultry feeds, this now depends on the availability of the materials in your area. We have a drum mixture, we have a machine, and then the very easy and then a cheap one is by using a spade. So you can see where you can lie and then use the available materials in your area so that you can mix your poultry feed. But you should mix them thoroughly so that the nutrients are evenly distributed in the poultry feeds. The next thing is that try to make sure that your feeds are first tested in the lab or the laboratory before feeding them to your birds. This helps to know the optimal amount of the ingredients in your feeds, and then it also helps us to know that our feeds are having a balanced nutrition inside them. If not, then they will also tell you that your feeds are lacking this kind of ingredients in it. And if that is a little bit expensive, I have another plan B for you. You can also use the experimental trials on your birds. What do I mean by this? After mixing your poultry feeds, you should isolate some of your birds. Let's say that you have 100 birds, then you can get like 5 birds and then feed them 100% on the mixed poultry feeds. And then the rest of the birds, you can give them the feeds that you normally give them. Then you observe the performance of these 5 birds. If they are broilers, then these birds will grow very fast if the feeds are right. And if these birds are layers, this is when they have reached a laying point, then they will also lay perfectly, like an egg after every 26 hours. With that, you will also know that my feeds are perfectly mixed. And if you're still mixing your poultry feeds for the first time, do not feed your birds fully on the feeds that you have mixed. First isolate them and then see how they will react to your feeds, because at times maybe you may have some errors in mixing your poultry feeds, and then these errors can also affect your birds so much. Let's say that you give them soya which is not roasted, and then you mix your poultry feeds, give it to your birds, and your birds all die. What will that be? Of course, a loss. If we are mixing our poultry feeds for the first time, let's first isolate the birds, give them, and then see how they will react to the feeds that we have given to them. And lastly, when you mix your poultry feeds, I cannot say that they will be 100% correct or they are perfect, the same as the ones that are bought from the market, like the commercial feeds, stuff like that. No, you may at times have maybe 70% perfect feeds compared to the ones that are commercially bought. So what we should do is that we should also use the nutrient boosters in our feeds. That will also help so much in making our feeds a little bit more better. There are very many kinds of nutrient boosters in the market. You can go and get one and then use it in mixing your poultry feeds. Like I've shown you, you have seen how my eggs are laying very many eggs and big eggs. That is because of the nutrient booster that I used in the feeds. Let's now enter into the final stage of this video, which is mixing the poultry feeds for broilers, layers at different stages. And then as a bonus tip, I will also give you a feed formulation for the local chicken. Before, if you haven't yet subscribed to the channel, what are you waiting for? Subscribe to the channel, like the video, and don't forget to hit the notification bell. That way you'll never miss out in case I upload any new video. Thanks for doing that. Starting with the broilers, as we all know, broilers are kept for a maximum of 2 months to be sold as meat. And at some point, I've seen some farmers doing 30 to 35 days. The bird has already gained its market weight. So when it comes to feeding these birds are normally fed on 3 feathers. We have the starter mash, the grower mash, and then the finisher mash. Starter mash or the starter feeds is given to broiler birds from day 1 up to day 15. And then grower mash from day 16 to day 30. And then the last one, which is the finisher mash, is from day 31 until it is now sold as meat. Starting with starter mash, these feeds contain more of protein and then carbohydrates in them. This is to help the chicks grow very fast within the shortest period of time. Lysine and then methionine should be added in the feeds to balance the level of the proteins. Besides that, the proteins also help so much in establishing a good appetite to these young birds, which are the chicks. Remember, the percentage of crude protein in the starter mash should be between 20 to 22%. So guys, I'll drop a table below with the feed formulation for birds from day 1 up to day 15.